Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Poland. I'm with APC by Schneider Electric. I'm back. I'll be your host again today for the Edge Expert Series. For some of you, it's a welcome back. For some of you, it's also a welcome to the party. Regardless of whether or not you're with us with episode 1, we have some really important content that I believe will have a direct positive impact on your business. So like last time, my colleagues and I, this time it's these two gentlemen, were able to get together, discuss a topic that we believe will significantly improve your distributed IT network. And that topic is transparency and visibility. So organizations in every industry really are undergoing some level of a digital transformation in an effort to take advantage of edge computing. But, and I stress this, deploying edge infrastructure management solutions can be complex. It's not easy. So I have these gentlemen with me. We're going to talk through it. They're going to help us navigate this whole topic of transparency and visibility. So to my left, I have Mr. Greg Johnson. He is our Director of Software Sales for North America. He has over 20 years of experience working with customers to design and deploy management solutions. Also, we have Mr. Mark Hurley. He's our Senior Solutions Architect for the business. Mark has extensive experience in designing very complex data centers, running complex data centers, but most importantly, architecting solutions to support distributed IT environments. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me today.
Andrew, I am excited to be here. We talked to customers about Edge in the last 6-8 months. It's been a very top of mind for our customers. So I'm excited to chat about it today. I'm looking forward to the call.
Yeah.
Cool.
Andrew, Edge is an important topic today, and we're going to deep dive into why software gives us transparency and visibility to manage Edge solutions.
Okay, so hot topic. We know it's super important. Let's actually take a step back, though, and recap what we talked about in episode 1 in case you weren't able to join us. We really dove into standard designs. So we established what we believe the edge is. We talked about what distributed IT environments look like. And then we really got into the first stage of how to manage this whole space, which again was deploying standard designs. So when you have a standard design, it really allows you to leverage a reference architecture. And when you have a reference architecture and you manage to all of your requirements up front, so compliance, compute, capacity, physical threat, all these different components, and you have it in an architecture that can be easily redeployed, it makes you efficient, it makes you flexible, it makes you adaptable, and really, most importantly, allows for rapid deployment. And when you can do rapid deployment, it allows you to optimize a cost and risk model. Another key point that we really dove into was designing with connectivity. So when you design a solution with connectivity, it allows you to begin to get that transparency and visibility that will enable more efficient operational management and efficiency. So when we talked about standard designs, those are the key topics that we covered, and that's kind of where we really left off. So when we think about transparency and visibility, Mark, let's start with Edge and really what's impacting the Edge, and really what is it?
So, great, thank you, Andrew. So it's really the Internet of Things is what's driving the Edge. And the Internet of Things is changing the way we see and view the world. Everything is becoming connected. So when you think about connectivity, we have your refrigerator now is connected to the internet, and you can order groceries online from your refrigerator. Your car is connected to the internet. We have smart homes. We have smart factories. So, and what this is doing, it is generating massive amounts of data. There's an interesting fact. 90% of the data in the world today was created in the last 2 years. And I heard recently that 90% of the data in the world will be created in the next year. It's vast amounts of data. And so what this Internet of Things is doing is pushing the need for compute near the customer, near where this data is being generated. And that's creating what we call the edge. So by generating data, it's creating a latency need or a latency issue. So the edge is trying to solve a business problem. By moving compute closer to the edge, we are minimizing the latency of all that data being collected and analyzed and transacted on. It also has a secondary effect in the transmission. When you're pushing data across the internet, it's like driving down a toll road. You know, the more cars that go down the toll road and the more toll gates they go through, the more revenue it generates, or the more it costs the consumer. So by moving that compute closer to the edge, we end up with solving two business problems. One's latency and increasing the efficiency of it from a transmission perspective. The other thing that digitization is doing for us is creating data that we can now act on and create business intelligence to help us optimize. So when I think about the edge, you know, let's think about the data center world. So when we look at our data center environment today, we have this complex hybrid data center environment. You know, not long ago, they were touting that everything is going to move to the cloud. There's going to be these large centralized data centers. All data is going to be in the cloud. And what we're finding now with all this IoT and this digitization and this data that's being created, we need edge compute. So we're creating a hybrid environment where we need both the cloud, we need edge compute, and we need regional data centers. Whether they're enterprise data centers or whether they're colo data centers, we need all three. And it's creating some complexity in how we manage it. So when we think about edge compute is not a new phenomenon. Edge compute's been around for a long time. I'll give you a couple examples. In the finance industry, they have branch banks. There's compute closets in those branch banks. In the retail industry, they have point of sales, IT equipment and compute environments in every retail store. But what we're finding is through digitization, through software, through data and analytics, it's becoming more critical. All of our businesses are relying on our compute and IT capacity. And if there's downtime in those environments, it could have severe and massive impacts on the business and their operation.
I heard a stat recently. Analyst firms said that 75%, in 2025, 75% of enterprise data will be generated and consumed at the edge. That is a shocking number. I mean,
so that's an incredible amount. And so we talk about IoT, we talk about digitization, all these transformative technologies that are doing what you just mentioned. And it's all good stuff. But like anything, edge comes with its challenges.
Yep.
You talk to customers every day. Can you help us understand what some of those challenges are and really maybe get into some of the things that we need to take into consideration when we start thinking about a management solution?
Yeah, Andrew, I think one of the things when customers, you said it earlier, Mark, it's natural, the edge is there, right? It's just we've kind of really coalesced around, you know, the offer and the customer solution. When you do that, what we found is customers don't have, you know, a brand ABC in every site that looks exactly the same and it performs the same way. Really the four things I see is, you know, visibility, right? We're going to talk quite a bit about that today. Standardization if you can. You know, not every customer can spend millions of dollars to recreate an edge environment of the same equipment, and so it's really tough there. And this is something our customers really, one of the aha moments for me in talking about edge and solutions to our customers was mobility. The fact that they could use their handheld devices anywhere in the world and you know, watch their gear almost like a data center in their pocket. And really the other thing I see is insight. Get this data, use the data for something more than, you know, information. Just make decisions on the data.
Okay.
Well, I think too, some of the other challenges around the edge is, you know, standardization helps solve one of the challenges.
Right.
It's a lot easier to manage one large data center than it is 100 small distributed data centers where they're lights out, you have no staff on site. You need to manage those things differently. And from a cost-effectiveness perspective, you know, standardization helps in maintaining it, but also software will help optimize those operations and make it more efficient to manage and operate those environments.
You know, I had a customer tell me that they've noticed the shift around importance in the uptime and the management of a data center. Yeah. The edge sites have to look and feel and have the same amount of uptime elements that their main data centers were. That was another aha moment for them.
So the same level of the management at the data center also needs to happen in your closets,
right?
IDFs, MDFs.
Back in the day, you used to build some resiliency in. There was no voice over IP, there was no telemedicine, there was nothing out pushed to the edge. It was quite mission critical as it is today. So that's number one. And the other thing that we really want to kind of keep in mind is these locations in the edge are typically not in the most optimal locations. If your data center has a drain and a sink, typically you have compute in these locations, right? So we can't forget about the physical environment, fluid on the floor, temperature, humidity, access. All of that comes into play in keeping edge, up and running, and it's still a big challenge.
Okay, so we're going down the process of trying to deploy these standard designs.
Yep.
We know with transparency, visibility, management, there's challenges, right? So we do our homework, we understand our business, we create an awareness of what we're up against, but now we're in a position where we need to start the design process. How do we start to really, Mark, I'll direct this to you, design and architect a solution that is going to allow us to optimize the space?
So we need to rethink how we design and operate and maintain an edge data center. Like we just mentioned, a lot of these edge sites are going to be remote sites. They're going to be lights out. They're not going to be staffed. They're going to be unmanned sites. So getting software in these solutions that gives us that visibility and transparency into the operation is going to be critical to manage them efficiently. So I like to use the analogy, we've designed cars for 90, 100 years now for the human being to drive. Now we're talking about autonomous vehicles. So autonomous vehicles can't be designed the same way that the car has been designed for the last 90 to 100 years. We need to rethink how we're going to design these edge sites so that they are optimized and that they are efficient and they give us that reliability and uptime that we are seeking. When we start thinking about the edge and how do we make it more resilient and meet our needs, I think there's three key areas. One, we need an integrated ecosystem. So all of these edge environments need to be integrated into a centralized platform. Greg, you mentioned that, given visibility through mobile apps, we don't need somebody necessarily sitting in a central office monitoring all these things, although that could be a benefit if you have hundreds of them. We need different management tools around how we manage those environments. You need to be able to remotely cycle power on and off to restart IT equipment. That's something that would be important. And we need to take advantage of all this data that's being created. We need to use this data and apply advanced analytics on it and get actionable business intelligence that'll help us optimize and further improve these edge environments.
So when you look at the edge environments, it really kind of transforms into this fully integrated micro data center. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit of what that looks like and how this whole management solution would play into that?
Sure. I think it ties into this concept in the first episode of a standardized design. Yeah. We need to provide solutions, not components. Our customers out there, they don't want to buy 100 different widgets and assemble them all together and figure out how to make them interact and communicate and be able to manage and monitor and control those environments. We need to give them an easy plug and play, distributed edge solution that's already got the software embedded, that already gives them the ability to have visibility into all the systems, not just the power, not just the cooling, but the IT equipment, security, access control. We need to rethink how we're going to manage that environment. And we need to use the data that's being generated by the Internet of Things, the equipment, to give us data that makes it more efficient to service those environments. So instead of getting an alarm that says, hey, your UPS has a battery problem, we need it to say, your UPS has a battery problem, and oh, by the way, here's the make, model, here's where it is in the manufacturing or distributor, and it's already being shipped, and send a notice to the technician to meet this piece of equipment out there on the site. That makes things more efficient. That's a different way of doing business.
And also, edge is, there's no definition about where. So, these devices could be in suboptimal environments. So a micro environment in that data center is just huge. I mean, it could be in a warehouse or a shopping district or wherever. So it's
Yeah, and I think too, it's interesting to see the evolution of technology, but we used to design data centers to operate at 68 degrees, right? And today, we're pushing that up. ASHRAE has extended those limits. But when you look at IT equipment is designed to operate at 95 to 105 degree inlet air temperature without impacting the warranty. So, maybe we're starting to look at increasing the thresholds. Maybe doing less maintenance is doing more. Maybe you have redundancy built into your systems and you run to fail on some components. Because the most expensive aspect of servicing an edge site is the cost to dispatch somebody there. And how often have we dispatched somebody there because of an alarm and the guy gets there and says, oh, this isn't my problem, this is the IT guy's problem. So now we got to dispatch the IT guy out there. IT guy comes out there, he says, oh, this isn't my problem, it's the BMS guy's problem, right? We need to be better at how we manage these environments.
So these environments, let me just make sure I understand this. They're that much more critical. They need that much more management. But we talked about the fact that some of these spaces, we can't physically staff them. We only have so many people, right? And I don't mind sending an email late at night, but I definitely don't want to get an email late at night with an alarm that says I need to get out of bed and go do something. Not my cup of tea. So Greg.
You're not a night owl.
No, not really, not anymore. So when we think about these spaces that we probably physically can't staff, how do we approach that? How do we manage it?
So Mark mentioned the data center, right? And our legacy data center has been easily staffed. You can walk around, see, feel, touch, hear, listen. With edge sites, you don't have that. You simply can't be everywhere or manage it. And here's the other thing. Remote management needs to look a little different when you go to edge. It's not the same type of management structure in a centralized data center or a co-locator. So some of the things you really need to take about, number one is scalability. Right? We have retail customers with thousands of locations, state and local governments with thousands and hundreds of locations. Scalability and a fair price, a good cost on the product. Be able to, because you're going to need that scalability. And then be able to be agile and very quick to deploy and manage it, make it easy to use, simplify the environment. So those are some of really the tenets of around a good edge environment. It's just fast and better.
Yeah. So I was with a customer just the other week, and they had 12,000 stores. They're expanding to 15,000 stores. That's a lot of sites. That's a lot of spaces.
And every site is going to be different, more than likely. The customer did it. A lot of this stuff is organic. Even retail could be a little bit unique in that they have standardized to some degree. I would give that to retail, but a lot of other industries and verticals maybe aren't quite like that.
Okay. So now some of these customers, they might already be using a tool.
They may.
They may think they're doing it right. They may know it's a challenge. But what are some of the tools that you're seeing customers use today to manage their environments?
Well, if you take a step back, and we took a look at, we did a research document, a paper, and 4 things came to the top. And if on the screen it should be, how do I have my best execution in my current venues? Is it colo? Is it not? Is it enterprise? Is it edge? That's number 1. And number 2 is visibility. I mean, every time we spoke with a customer, it was visibility. And then operational, management. You mentioned earlier how to operate, and we're going to talk about that in the next webinar, right? I think that's going to be teed up. And then the human element, staffing. We often overlook that, but those are kind of the 4 things that we really need. Quality of life is extremely important for our customers. And when in a lot of these edge environments, Andrew, they just don't have the staff to be able to be everywhere. So we kind of look at it and we say, hey, what are some of the recommendations that we can provide our customers? What would it look like, right? So the ideal world would be, hey, just get one tool that's vendor agnostic, that's centrally managed. I'm going to bring in the word cloud here. I'm sure we're going to talk about that a little later, right? That's number 1.
Yep.
And then number 2 is take that information and apply it to every site, whether it's colo, whether it's enterprise data center, regional edge, or closet. Consistent data, right? And then really the next one is benchmark. Understand what the data is doing. It's nice to manage the right now, right? And am I healthy or am I not healthy? But I think really the key, especially with cloud, or edge rather, sorry, is understanding how to maybe avoid an outage.
Yep.
Grabbing a lot of data, analyzing the data, and make some recommendations. I like to say all of these IoT devices, Mark, that you mentioned earlier, they're all intelligent now, right? And they all have a story to tell. We just have to listen to it. And once we do that, we can start gaining some insight to what's happening on a larger scale, and then we can be really predictive about our maintenance and management, and that's the key, and that's the power.
So that makes me think of something. Makes me think of DSIM, right?
Yeah, DCIM, our old friend DCIM.
Data center infrastructure management.
Yep.
The way customers have been kind of doing this stuff.
Yep.
It's not new, but the environments are new. They're changing.
Right.
So, Mark or Greg, can you talk to us a little bit about how DSIM has evolved to manage and help support edge environments?
Sure, sure. Well, everybody's definition of a DSIM solution is different.
My Excel document.
For me, and particularly for an edge environment, the DSIM solution needs to be all-encompassing. It needs to be managing the space, the power, the cooling, the IT kit, the security. It needs to be able to manage the whole ecosystem within that edge compute environment. So the power of DSIM is great. It helps you get visibility into your data center operations, where you can deploy capacity, where you may have hotspots. All that stuff has been done for a long time, and the tools have evolved and become smarter. But where we're going to get the next gain in efficiency and visibility into the data center operations is by moving this DSIM solution to the cloud.
So think second time.
Yep.
That's the second.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
Yeah.
So think about it. If you have one site that you're managing, you have visibility and trending capability on the equipment in your site. That gives you limited insight into the reliability of that equipment. But what if you put that data in a data lake in the cloud, number 3, and you compare that against hundreds, if not thousands, of other similar systems, and now you can start to extract meaningful data and analytics that gives you intelligence to not only say what happened and how we might prevent it in the future, but predict when it's going to happen again. Be more predictive, more prescriptive.
Yeah, when it comes to DCIM, this is where I think customers need to really think about what I consider the 3 components of DCIM. Okay, number 1 is capacity management, right? Number 2 is asset management. And number 3 is really monitoring and how we monitor those. And in a good system, you're going to have both centralized monitoring with DCIM and planning, but under the same umbrella, you have monitoring remotely. And again, I'm going to bring it up one more time because we're going to end with the cloud. And I think that is the component that gives us the power to get to where we want and really to solve all the problems that we've been discussing for the last 20, 30 minutes.
So if you're going to bring a cloud-based solution into your management platforms, I mean, is that an easy process? Is that an easy transition?
So I'll tell you the advantages and then what we talk about as something you have to check, right, for our customers.
Okay.
So number 1 is speed. I mean, it really, in an environment you can plug a device in and you're connected. So that's number 1. Number 2, access from anywhere. Mobile phone in your pocket, you have your data center, and the cloud enables that. We have customers that try to build a system where they can remotely monitor their gear with their mobile device. That is a nightmare. It introduces more issues into the customer than it really solves in the customers I've spoken with, right? And then the maintenance and pay as you grow, and really it's more of a operational expense than a capital expenditure. So those are all good, and the scalability and the analytics as well.
So you're getting to a point where you're taking this NOC space, we've all seen them, and it's turning into something on your phone.
It is. It's powerful. We're basically taking it that way, and the other.
It could be both.
It can,
You know, some customers may have staff that can manage thousands of edge sites, but you may have only a few edge sites. It's not cost effective for you to manage it. So you can engage a service bureau, or you can just have the mobile app and you can manage a few sites yourself. You get visibility. You mentioned some of the benefits, one being converting a CapEx expense for buying a DSIM solution into an OpEx expense where you subscribe. That's good. That's one good benefit, but also the upgrade, continuous software upgrades without you having to buy or push firmware upgrades to your software. So that's another benefit of a cloud-based solution.
The other thing, Andrew, is security. So all our customers are faced with a security, gate before they go to the cloud. And so if I were recommending some information to a customer, I would say, hey, make sure you understand, if you're going to go to cloud, you're going to plug in a gateway, make sure they have their certificates, the test, everything that goes along with with a safe and secure cloud environment. So it's such an enabler. I mean, our customers are absolutely really getting a lot of advantages. And I'll tell you a quick story. I love stories. So a higher ed customer had some data in a data center in South Carolina, and they had a research partner in LA or San Diego with 3 racks. Now, what we also find here is that the NOCs, in these NOC customers that have NOCs, typically look at network, storage, and server. They don't really look at that next level, that air gap where there's infrastructure and power supplies and UPSs and air conditioning. So this customer had been using a tool to watch his gear, and he called the NOC and said, hey, I see something on his phone. He was sitting in his easy chair at home. He got an alarm on his phone. He used the word easy chair, by the way. Not my word. So he said, he looks at his iPhone. He goes, hey, something's on battery. He called the NOC, and the NOC said, no, it's good. The San Diego racks are good. And while he was talking to her, they died. They went down. So they weren't watching the mission. The story here is you have to have, number one, cloud, but visibility through the whole stack. The whole IT kit stack, and make sure they're all related. And that's another takeaway for me, is to make sure customers, relate everything from the environment up to the app that the customer's using. So
eliminates the gaps and keeps you a step ahead.
Yep.
Cool. So we've gone through quite a few different topics today. We're coming to an end. I feel pretty comfortable that we've covered the whole concept of transparency and visibility and what you're up against in trying to deploy these management solutions, the process, the challenges, and how do you effectively understand what's right for you. So if we could just recap, maybe each of you could share a key takeaway, 2, 3 key takeaways from today that you want to leave everybody with.
Yeah, so I'll start. First of all, we talked about in the first episode, standardization is key. Well, to providing a cost-effective solution, but remote management and control and increased visibility and transparency is also key to providing a cost-effective solution. We can't be staffing these sites. We can't be dispatching people numerous times to the site. We need visibility, we need control in order to provide a cost-effective solution.
Greg, any other final comments?
Just one quick one. The cloud is the empowering tool here from the legacy days of on-site and on what we call on-premise monitoring versus cloud. That's a big one. And number 2 is to really understand that if you choose a vendor to do this, make sure it's vendor agnostic. Right? I think that's a big key here that we haven't talked a lot about, is just making sure that it is irrelevant what type of manufacturer you have, because customers always evolve. We talked about it. If they have an initiative to go deploy a new digitalization evolution, they may have some legacy equipment. So just make sure that that it's vendor agnostic.
So lastly, I would say that in the Internet of Things world that we live in today, we are generating large amounts of data. And if we don't do something with that data to improve our business, we are wasting our time. So advanced analytics, we need analytics on big data to generate actionable business intelligence that helps make us more cost effective, helps reduce our risk, and that's how we're going to remain competitive in this environment.
Yes, Einstein's theory of insanity, right? We can't keep doing the same things over and over again like we did with legacy data centers and expect a different outcome.
Yeah. So So I think we're starting to establish the right approach when it comes to edge and distributed IT environments. So, you know, in episode 1, we talked about standard designs. Today, we covered the transparency and visibility piece of it. So we'd love for you to tune in next time. On October 30th, we will dive into the operational piece of it. Both of these gentlemen alluded to the transparency and visibility, setting up a strong operational process, you know, within this space. So operational maintenance will be the key topic next time. Please join us. Hopefully you enjoyed today's discussion and you get some key takeaways. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Andrew.
And I hope you all have a good rest of the afternoon. Thank you.